Hi guys, it's Mrs. Glenn. Welcome to the finish of 2-1's lesson. So here's the bell work. Go ahead and pause the screen to do your bell work. All right, for question 5, you receive a gift card for an online game. Every time you play and you spend the same amount of money. After playing 2 games, the card balance is $17.70. After 5 games, the balance is $14.25. Determine the original value of the card. So first thing you want to do is write down what they told you in a table to organize your information. So they said after 2 games it was $17.70 and after 5 games it was $14.25. So we're going to make X1 be the 2 and then X2 be the 5. And Y1 is going to be $17.70 and Y2 is going to be $14.25. And you're going to find the slope using those 2 points. So remember, our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And when we substitute those values in, then we're going to divide. So 1425 minus 1770 is negative 3.45, and 5 minus 2 is 3. And when you divide that, you find it to be negative 1.15. So that means every game is going to cost $1.15. So if we work backwards from what they told us that after 2 games it was $17.70. So if we add 1.15 to $17.70, we'll find that after 1 game it was $18.85. And then if we add 1.15 back to $18.85, we find that the original card that she received, the gift card, was $20. So the original value of the gift card was $20. All right, let's go on to number 6. So for number 6, a garment factory worker works at a steady rate. He starts his work at 8 a.m. He takes a 1.5-hour lunch break at 1, and then he finishes at 5 p.m. By 10:30 a.m., he has made 12 pieces at his job. And how many pieces will he complete by the end of the working day? So first thing we need to pay attention to is our X and Y. And at 0 hours, he's made 0 pieces of garments. And at 2.5 hours in, when he gets to 10:30, he's made 12 pieces. And then he takes his lunch break. And then at 5 p.m. he is done. So the important thing from the question, it says that it's at a steady rate. So the only value that we actually know is that after 2.5 hours, when it got from 8 a.m. to 10:30, he made 12 garments. So we can actually divide 12 by 2.5 to find that per hour he makes approximately 4.8 pieces or 4.8 garments. So given that he's working a 9-hour day, because from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. that's 9 hours, if we multiply 4.8 times 9 hours, you actually have to subtract the 1.5 hours that he took for lunch because he's not working during that time. So you're going to multiply 4.8 times 7.5, and you find that that means that he can create 36 garments in 1 day time of 7.5 hours. So the answer is 36. All right, number 7 for the bell work. Mary is planning to buy a new sofa bed. She is considering 2 payment plans that require weekly payments. Which plan will be the best plan to pay off the fastest? So I can see that we can set up 2 different equations if we let X equal the number of weeks that they're making payments. So we have $680 that the budget for the loan will be for the sofa. And for the first plan A, you're going to have a $130 down payment, which means we're subtracting that from the total. And then every week they're going to pay $55 towards the sofa until it's paid off. So if we solve that for X, we can see how long it's going to take to pay off with plan A. So we add 130, divide by 55, and you get 14.72 weeks approximately, obviously 15 weeks. And then for plan B, we have no down payment, so there won't be any Y-intercept, but we're going to pay $85 a week. So when we divide by 85, you get 8, which means if they choose plan B, it will be faster because you're paying at a higher weekly rate. So after a couple weeks, you've already paid that 130, and then if they continue at 8 weeks, plan B ends up being faster, paying it off. All right, now get out your notebook. We're going to finish 2-1's notes. So example number 3, make sure you put the date at the top. It's 9/24/20. says, how can you find an equation of a line that passes through 2 points if neither of them is the y-intercept? Consider the line that passes through points -1, -2, and 3, 4. So your first step is to find the slope of that line. So we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we can see that y2 is 4 and y1 is -2. So it's minus a -2. And then for the x's, we have x2 is 3 and x1 is -1. So we have 3 minus a -1. It's important to remember that the formula is a minus in between the x1s and x2s and y2s and y1s. So if your any value is negative, you have to put minus a negative. So that ends up being a plus when you add that, when you subtract a negative. It's the same thing as adding. So 4 minus a -2 is 4 plus 2. 3 minus -1 is 3 plus 1. And you end up with 6/4. So if we reduce that by dividing by 2 on the top and the bottom, you get 3 over 2. So now that we find the slope, all we got to do is take one of those points that they gave us originally in the problem and plug them into our slope-intercept y equals mx plus b and include the slope we just found and then search for b. So I'm going to use 3/4 because 3/4 is positive. It's just easier to use. And remember our slope-intercept form of y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to take the y value. Instead of writing y, I'm writing 4. So 4 equals. Instead of writing m, I'm going to write 3/2 because we already found what m is. And then instead of writing x, I'm going to write the x value of that point, which is 3. And then we don't know what b is. And the whole point of doing step 2 is to find what b is so that we can find our final answer. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 3 and divide it by 2, and I get 9 over 2. And we can actually change that to 4.5 in this situation. Using a decimal is a little easier when you're subtracting to get b by itself. So we're going to subtract our 4.5 to the left-hand side, and you get -0.5. So now at this point we can convert it back to a fraction. So -0.5 is a half, so -1/2. And now we're going to take the values we know. So now we have the m and we have the b. So we plug it back into our y equals mx plus b. So we have y equals 3/2 x instead of mx, and then -1/2 instead of b. And that would be your final answer. 1 equals 3/2 x minus 1/2. If you're not understanding what I just did, go back and rewatch it. And this is going to be the finish of 2-1. So we're going to do another example of this one. So we have, write the equation, for this one it's going to be 3b in your notes. Write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the points 5, 4 and -1, 6. So again, we're going to find slope. So we have y2 minus y1 and x2 minus x1. And subtract and then divide. So our slope is 2. Then we're going to take one of those points. I always like to keep the positive point, so I'm going to use 5, 4. And plug it in for the y and the x. So instead of writing y, I'm writing 4. Instead of writing m, I'm going to write 2 because I already found what m is. Instead of writing x, I'm going to write 5 because that came from the point. And then we're looking for b. So now you do 2 times 5, which is 10. Subtract 10 on both sides, and you get -6 equals b. So now we're just going to take those two values, our 2 and our -6, and plug them in where they go in slope-intercept form. So I have y equals, and instead of writing m, I write 2x, and then for b, I'm going to write -6. So it's normally y equals mx plus b, but we know what m is, so we replace that with the 2, and we know what b is now, so we replace that with a -6. And that is the answer for 3b. All right, let's move on to 4a. So this is with a graph. Allie received a gift card for her local coffee shop. Every time she goes to the shop, she gets a medium coffee. The graph shows the gift card balance at 2 points. How can Allie determine the number of medium coffees she can buy with the gift card if she doesn't know the original value of the card? So again, we have 2 points, which means we have to find slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Then we're going to use one of those points and plug it back in to find what the y-intercept is. And then the last step is to find plug in our 2 answers that we found. All right, so I'm going to use 1440 minus 1970. Those are our 2 y's. And then x2 minus x1 would be 4 minus 2 on the bottom. So when you subtract it, you get negative 5.3 on top and 2 on the bottom. Then you just divide, and you get negative 2.65, which means every coffee she buys is $2.65. So now all you have to do is work backwards. So we're going to take our values that we know and use one of the points. So we have 14.4 is the point I used. You could have used 2, 19.7. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to plug in 14.4 for the y value, negative 2.65 for the m, 4 for the x value, and then b is the variable we're looking for. So now we're going to multiply negative 2.65 times 4, and you get negative 10.6. Then you're going to add 10.6 to both sides, and you find that the total of our gift card was $25. So we don't have to then plug in our M and B back into the equation because it didn't ask us for that equation, but I just want to show you what it should be. I don't know if I put it here or not. No, I didn't. Okay. So that means that $2.65 for a coffee, $25 was the original gift card amount. So if we then take our $25 gift card, because the whole question's asking how many coffees can she get if she gets the same thing every time. So we divide 25 by 2.65 and find that it's approximately 9 coffees. So it ends up being 9.43 repeating, I believe, and obviously she can't buy 0.43 of a coffee. So she has enough money to buy 9 coffees with that gift card. All right, so this is 4b. So that's the equation from the previous answer. And now it's asking you to find the x-intercept. So intercepts are really easy to find when you're given an equation. You just plug 0 into the opposite variable. So if you're looking for the x-intercept, you plug 0 into the y. And if you're looking for the y-intercept, you plug 0 into the x. So we're going to plug 0 into the y to find our x-intercept. Essentially what that does is it gets rid of the y variable, and then we can find what x equals. So we subtract 25, divide by negative 2.65, and you get approximately 9.434. And what does that mean in the situation is our second part. And that means that the x-intercept stands for the number of medium coffees she can buy with her $25 gift card. And then when you're writing the x-intercept, you always want to write it in a coordinate point. So 9.434, 0 would be the answer for the x-intercept. All right, and now we have our concept summary. Go ahead and take a picture of this and make sure that it's in your notes. So let's go over it really quick. The slope-intercept form of a linear equation is used when the slope and the y-intercept of a line are known. The slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is your y-intercept. And then they gave you 2 examples. So if you're given that equation and you're asked to graph that equation, remember we always start with the y-intercept. That is your starting value. So we're going to plot 1, and then we use the slope to move to our next point. So rise over run, we go up 2 and to the right 3. And we plot that point and we make a line that goes straight through it. So you can see that the y-intercept is 1 and our slope is 2/3. On the right hand side, again start with a y-intercept, which is negative 1. And this time we have a slope of negative 2, which means we go down 2 and over 1. So if we have a whole number, we can write that whole number as rise over run just by putting a 1 underneath it. So we're going to go down 2 and to the right 1 to graph that line, and then connect the 2 points making a straight line. And that is it for 2-1. I will see you guys tomorrow.